Okay, starting off with an A3 piece of paper. The measurements for this are 29.7 centimeters and 42 centimeters across. So we're going to measure down about halfway. To make this easy on ourselves, we're just going to measure down 14.5 centimeters. Make a little mark there on one side of the page. We're then going to go to the center and measure 14.5 here, make a little mark, and do the same on the other side. The reason we're doing this is our ruler isn't long enough to draw a straight line all the way across. So in order to get a complete parallel line across the bottom of the page, or across the middle of the page rather, we're going to do these 3 dots and make it easy on ourselves to very lightly join them together, moving the ruler across, joining the dots and drawing the line across there. And this gives us our eye line or horizon. Now this is 2-point perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 dot on the edge of the page there on the line and 1 point on the other side. And they are our 2 vanishing points for this lesson's 2-point perspective. And then I'm going to move in about 1/3 of the way along the page, so just guessing, and I'm going to do a line about 10 centimeters long. What I'm doing is I'm putting my ruler here and I'm making it about 5 down to the horizontal line, and I'm going to go 5 below, so 10 altogether. Make sure this line is a vertical line parallel with the outside of the page. We don't want it at an angle, we want it straight down. And then super lightly we're going to join the bottom and the top of this line to the vanishing points on either side. So I'm going to draw this very lightly. A very faint line. Very faint. The same here. Very faint line. I'm kind of doing it as a dotted line here because it doesn't show up so well on the camera. Hopefully this will show up enough, but you do this just faint enough. Because the reality is we're not going to need all of this line. We're going to rub out an awful lot of it. See that line joining to the vanishing point on the other side. The same here. Okay, so to recap, we've drawn a vertical line straight down, about 1/3 of the way into the picture. And then we've connected the bottom of it to the vanishing point on either side, and the top of it to the vanishing point on either side. Next thing, get your line parallel with the line you've just drawn vertically down, and move it across a little bit. This is going to be the front of our church. So, line straight down. The next thing I want to do is to guess the line halfway between that line and that line. Just guesstimate it, don't worry too much. So I'm guessing about there, and I'm going to go up a little bit in the air, parallel with it, put a little dot in. And where I've got that dot, I'm going to join a line up like that, and I'm going to join my line from that one to that one. So we're making a triangle on top of the 2 lines we've already done. Now this line, triangle there, needs to join to the vanishing point over here. This is going to be the roof of the church. So again, keep this a very faint line. Super friendly, faint line. And the reason I say it's a friendly line is because it's very easy to rub out afterwards, because we don't really need it. You could make that a little bit higher, but I want to leave room for our church spire. So the next thing we're going to do is about halfway between top of the triangle and that line there, we're going to choose where we want the spire to come out of. So about there we need it to come out of. So again, I'm going to draw a straight line up. Now you'll have to see how far you want this to come up. I want it to come up just enough so that when I line it back there, it's going to clear the top of that triangle. So that's fine for me. Okay, just line straight vertically up parallel again with these lines here. And then line up to the vanishing point here. Now here's the thing, we don't need much of a line, so all I need to do is draw a faint line down some of the way. As long as it's lined up to this vanishing point here, we don't actually have to go all the way down to it. So as you can see, I've only drawn my line that far. And the reason for this is because I actually want it to end there. So we've drawn that line down there, so I want it to end for the other side of the church spire. I'm just going to move it across like that, at about equal distance down, and I'm going to draw a line down there. And this is the front of the church spire. Again, we're going to join now the top of that and the bottom of it to the vanishing point on this side. But again, we don't need the actual line to be drawn all the way down. We can line it up like this, then we draw it as far as we need it to be, just a couple of centimeters, and do the same at the top. And then, to finish off our spire, or the brickwork on it, parallel line, and we move it across, as far as you wish. Line up, and we have our church spire. To finally give the point on the top of the spire, we're going to make a triangle, a pyramid on the top. Now you can choose, you can either go to the left of it or the right of it. I'm going to go slightly to the left, so going up and then slightly to the left. So if you imagine my line was going up, then slightly to the left, and I'm going to join all the points of this triangle to it. So the first one there, second one there, third one there. My first line wasn't quite as well lined up as I'd hope, so I just draw that in a little bit better. Okay, so remove that first line there because I wasn't happy with it. Another important reason for always drawing faintly. Okay, and now we'll do the front door on the church. So, I want the front door to be in this section here. Now remember, this is the bottom of your church here. So I'm going to choose to draw my door up, and it's a vertical line. Move in, draw up as far as you want the door to be there. And then, once you put the height of your door here, you're going to line up to the vanishing point on the other side, but very faintly draw it across. And you want the gap there and the gap there to be about equal. Remember, this gap's going to be slightly smaller because that's the way perspective works. So I'm just going to draw it in slightly more and then draw my line down. So parallel line, move it in as much as you want, straight line down. Okay, let's make this a bit more church-like. So again, guess halfway between there and there. Go up a little bit, put a little dot, and then just curve it in. Light at first, and then when you're happy with it, draw in a little bit harder. Okay, and this is a trickier part. We're going to draw a line here, draw the croc spire. So if we kind of imagine an imaginary line there, okay, go to the side of it, a small amount, draw a line down, very faintly, then join that to the vanishing point, top of that one, so that's joined to the vanishing point. Top of that one to the vanishing point, but only draw a little bit of the way down because you really then want to make it into this box. Now this seems really odd that we're doing a square for a clock face, but this is the guidelines and you really need to be doing this very faintly, because what we're going to do then is we're going to make a little mark there in the center of those lines and then a mark there in the center of those lines. Again, down there, in the centre there, and then we're very carefully going to draw a curve, and then another curve, and then another curve, and then another curve. So we get a circle. And the theory is then, when we rub out these parts, we'll have a circle for our clock face. Okay, so now we're going to add an extension to the church coming out. Let's get that line there and move it across. We're going to parallel vertical line going down the church. So going from the roof to the bottom of the church there. You can imagine then the side of the church here. Okay, so vertical line down there. And then what we're going to do is, from the bottom of it and the top of it, we're going to draw a line coming from the vanishing point. So we line it up with the vanishing point, but instead of drawing a line from there to there, we're just going to draw it coming out from here outwards. So draw a little bit of a line coming out, press lightly, and the same at the top. We line up the vanishing point here to the point of that line you just drew, draw the line coming out. Try and get these about the same distance, so I'm at about 3 centimeters. I think I'm going to do here. I'm going to do a line, about 3 centimeters, a line, and then we'll join those up. Just need to make that sure that line is parallel. And then, bottom of it and the top of it, line up to the vanishing point on the other side. Just draw a line down, maybe a few centimeters again. And a few centimeters again. And then join that up. So this is the church, and this is the side of the church coming out. I'm going to give it a pointed roof as well, so a pitched roof. So again, halfway between there and there. You guess, move up as much as you want to, and then join edge of that to that point, and the edge of that to the point. Just making sure you line them up accurately. Now I want to create a roof from there so they can join together. So again, from that point, always to the vanishing points. Remember that this keeps happening, and it's a repeating factor in a 3-point perspective drawing. You're connecting always to the vanishing points. There are a few exceptions, but we'll talk about them when we do them. Line there, just down to the roof line. And we've got that. Get the angle. Let's get the angle now of the roof there. And just move your ruler across till it connects with that corner there. Draw it in. Oops, sorry. I'm going to keep it, but you want to probably do it just to there. Just remove that part, but I'm not happy with that. And then you can just draw that line there a little bit clearer. Okay, so let's just recap what I did there a little bit. Halfway across from there to there, we estimated the middle, moved up, a dot, made your triangle, and drew that line back to the vanishing point, but stopping when we hit this roof line. And then when it hits that roof line, just draw a diagonal line back to that point there. And you'll get the idea of the two roofs merging together. Let's add a stained glass window to this church. So to do that, on this side, on this piece of the church, we're going to draw a line down, any size you want. Again, join to the vanishing point, stop it. About the place we think it's kind of an equal spacing on either side. A little bit small on this side because that's the way perspective works. The top, do the same but super faint. And then we think you need to join it to the line straight up. And then again, guess halfway, move up, dot, and let's do a curve for the top of this stained glass window we're going to draw on the side. And if you want, you can get rid of that line in the middle. So, again to recap, we do a straight line, joined it to the vanishing point, joined to the vanishing point, did another straight line up, giving the gap between there and there about equal measure, and then guessed halfway, moved it up, and do one curve to the point and one curve to the point. And now we have quite a successful looking church at the moment. But what I want to do is do a very much more complicated thing and draw a wall around your church. So for this, in line with that wall there, just move over slightly, and we're going to draw a parallel line down the bottom of your page here. We're not going to go quite to the bottom of the page. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to tick up to the vanishing point, and I'm going to line up and draw up to the vanishing point. Do this very lightly. The reason is because we're going to be rubbing off an awful lot of this wall out. Now, bottom to the vanishing point, and the same again, connecting up. It's quite a repeated process this. You draw a straight vertical line and then join to the vanishing points. Join the vanishing points very lightly. You can always go over them when you need to later, like I've been doing with the church. So for the moment, very lightly. So this creates the wall to the side of the church and a wall in front of the church. But I want to create a wall behind that side of the church and behind the back of the church. So to this it gets a bit more complicated. Go to your vanishing point on the right hand side. Get your ruler, and you need to make sure your ruler is above that corner there of the church. So get it above that a little bit. I'm going to go about a centimetre above, or a little bit less. I'm going to draw a line coming across there, and I need that line to go out as far as that wall, the first top of the wall there. But here's the clever thing. Then move your ruler across, line it up with that line to the first line of the wall, then go to the second line of the wall and put a dot in, a little marker to see where it is. And where that is there, what you're going to do is you're going to get your ruler, make it vertical, make a vertical line parallel with the edge of your page, vertical line up from the bottom wall line to the top one. And then, simple thing we're going to do is we're going to bring that line back to the church. Now in theory, it should line up with the vanishing point on this side, but I'm not as worried. As long as it looks like it's parallel enough with the one at the bottom, I'm going to be happy. And so there you have your back wall and your side wall. If I just draw this in a little bit stronger, hopefully you can see the illusion I'm trying to create of a wall in front, the side of the church there, and going up the back of it. This wall's a little bit trickier, and it may be a ruler isn't quite long enough, like mine isn't. So to do that, we're going to have to guesstimate. Okay, so for the other wall it's a bit more complicated. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try and find the angle. We want it to come up higher than the corner of the church here, so we're aiming for around about that area. So to do this, I'm going to get my ruler and line it up to the vanishing point on the other side and try and line it up as best I can to this point here. It won't quite make it, so what I'm going to do is put a very faint line in as my guideline. Now that line I'm going to rub out later, so do it very faintly. Then move my ruler across, line it up with that line, and then I can draw my line going out from the church to the first line of the wall. So that line's coming out from the church to the first line you see of the wall. But put the ruler back, because we need it, like we did on this side, we need that line to line up to the second line of the wall. We put a dot there and draw a straight line up, parallel with the edge of the page. When we've got that then, that's going to join across to the vanishing point on the other side. Like I said with the other, on the other side of the church, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, it's just aiming for the vanishing point. So I'm aiming to get it in line there, draw it from the church to the top of that line. And that gives us the wall behind that side of the church. Now that's pretty good, but how are we going to get to the church? We need to create a path and a hole in the wall and a path going up to the church door. Concentrate here because this is a tricky part of the drawing. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to line that up. Now I want my path to come from around about here out to the wall, around about here out to the wall. So again, I'm going to line up to the vanishing point, line it up to that point there. Again, do a little bit of a line very faintly, and then move it across. Line it up, draw a line coming out from there to this time to the bottom line of the wall. So all the way across from the church to the bottom line of that wall. And then I'm going to draw a line straight up again, make sure it's vertical with the edge of the page. It's a straight line up, like that. And that's going to be the front of my church wall. So if I draw that line in there, draw that line in there, just going a little bit harder over the wall lines, which are my guidelines originally. And I'm noticing there's a little bit of a gap there, so I'm just going to, on that back wall there, so I'm just going to take that right up to there. And this is the wall stopping to allow the path to start. But I need to know where this wall ends, so we're going to do the second one. So I've said I wanted to come out about here. So again, put my ruler down, line up to the vanishing point on the right hand side, bring it up. This time I'm a bit luckier, it is connecting there, but just in case yours doesn't, I'm going to show you the same technique. Draw that line, draw the line there, move it in line with that, and draw a line across. This time stop it at that first line there, but then go to the second line, put your dot in, so you know where you're then going to do a vertical line up, parallel with that one, vertical line up. So from the bottom wall line to the top one there, and that then becomes the gap in church. It'll become clearer now when I draw it in, rub it out. So to make it clearer, I'm going to draw in the top of this wall. So that line goes from there, all the way up to that line we've just drawn. That line there goes from the bottom wall to that line there. And then it's time for the rubber. So we rub out that top guideline there, don't need any more. And this bit in here, because there's a wall getting in the way. Okay, and hopefully now you can start to see that we could walk up this road and we could turn into the church here along its path. So that part there, that part there, with a path leading to church, and this is the front wall, that's the back wall there, a side wall to the front of the church, a side wall to the back of the church. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that church now, and I think that's done, but we'll just add a bit of depth to the background, because it's important that we create the illusion of depth. We've already done that with having the front wall and then the church sort of coming out at us with an extension on the side, but just in the distance we're going to give a little sense of perspective. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little row of houses here. So on the horizon line, the first line we drew, we're just going to draw a vertical line again, a sort of straight line up. That you can choose where it is, and I'm going to draw a little box shape, keeping it simple, a little square. Okay, nothing too complicated. And then once I've drawn that square, I don't really need those bits on the side. Oops. And then I'm going to draw a triangle on top of that. So again, gets my halfway point, put a dot, and create a little triangle, kind of like a house you do in primary school. The square and the roof of the house. And then we're going back to the vanishing point. So this is kind of a bit like 1 point perspective. Line up to the vanishing point, draw a line down as far as you think you want to go. I'm only going to go a few centimetres. Again, so we're going to then line this corner up to the vanishing point. Okay, and then the top of the house, where the roof is, that to the vanishing point. Now once we've got that, I can decide I'm going to do about 3 houses. So the first house there, it will look like the biggest house because as it goes further away it'll get slightly smaller. So you might need to do a little bit smaller gap, a slightly smaller gap as it goes down. Okay, once we've got I'm happy with 3 houses. We could add a 4th house, we've got just about enough room there. Once we're happy with that, I'm going to then choose the angle of the roof. So it's the same as the triangle, same as that one there. So move that across, and on each of the top of the houses, put a roof in on the divider line for the houses. And there's my 4 houses going down the road there. If you want to, you can add a little bit of detail by sort of drawing doors on the houses, but don't get worried about that too much. In fact, you can probably freehand in. I suggest you do it on the other side as well, but maybe a little bit smaller. So again, draw a little square. Now, in an ideal world, a square, the lines would join up to the vanishing point on the other side, but I'm not too worried about that. Because it's so small in the distance, it's going to make a big difference. Draw your square, then add a triangle on the top. Like that, and then join it to the vanishing point. So the bottom line got off. Don't go all the way down to the vanishing point, you don't need to, because then you'll have to rub it out. That one, a bit further along, and then the next one from the top. Okay, and then just add your houses. On this side I'm going to go a little bit smaller, I'll just do 3 houses, I think. 1, 2, 3. And again, the angle of the roof there, take that as your basis and just move along. Put that in. Okay, so you can rub out any lines you don't want at that point, or you don't need anymore, so it just cleans up your workspace a little bit. Okay, and for the last bit of the houses, just to create another effect of even further in the distance, we're going to add a row of terrace houses in the middle here. So on the eye line there, I'm just going to go just below it, and I'm going to draw a straight line. No join up to vanishing points this time, it's just a straight horizontal line parallel with your sort of eye line. And I'm going to go just above it a little bit. I'm going to draw another line in. It's just 2 lines going parallel on your page. I move up a smaller amount. This can be the roof space, like that. So it's just 3 lines that seem to go on beyond that church and behind those houses there, sorry. And then just draw your straight lines down to divide each of the houses out. This is a row of terraced houses just in the distance. And each one of those can become a little house. Put a little chimney on if you want for each one. And you can do the same then in the background here on this side, but of course it just gets a little bit smaller because they're all in the distance a bit there. And you can add them here if you want to as well. And again, the idea is you can go small if you want to, or just continue those ones on parallel. Okay, so I'm quite happy now that we've created a 3D church and we've got the buildings on in the background there. Feel free to fill those in later. Okay, for this skyline, you don't have to be, I don't worry about it being too accurate, it's just a series of buildings. So, it could be that you just give a nice skyscraper. Now I'm not expecting these to be 3-dimensional, they are going to be nice flat sort of silhouettes in the end coming out. So it could be sort of city blocks like this. You could make it slightly more interesting and create the fact that it's sort of a suburb of London, say, and have sort of a Big Ben style clock in the background. this is all totally up to you. Okay, so okay, totally up to you where you go for it. Don't go too high on this picture. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. You might want to put, say, I don't know, a Ferris wheel or the London Eye style building in the background there. Remember to draw lightly. If you want to do a circle, you can find a compass or something to draw around. Totally up to you. Okay. Doesn't have to be too complicated. I think I'm overcomplicating myself here. But just a minute, I'm gonna. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the kind of images I've got there. No, I'll leave that. Okay, let's just put a more of a standard building in the background there. Like an old factory house. Anyway, so we've got that basics of the building now. Now once we've done that, we've given the sort of 3D effect of the wall, the church, the terraced houses going off an angle behind, and the flat row of terrace houses just going there, in for the back there. Add a few here just to stop that encroaching. Okay, so once we've got that, I want us to put hills on to create an even further, a greater sense of depth and a further sense of we can travel backwards in this picture. I'm going to put 3 hills in altogether. Now with hills, I don't want simple sort of big rounded humps. I want you to think about what a hill actually looks like, and it's quite sort of random in its effect. So I'm going to get it, bump it down there, and we're just going to go behind the church. So imagine where it's going, down like that, and just stopping behind that building there, maybe coming out there. And that's the first hill. Behind that hill is going to be another hill. This one's not going to be quite as tall, and it's going to come down here. Now they're coming down all the way so I can see it flowing down the back of there. I want to create leave a reasonable amount of sky on this, because I want the effect of the sky to be well, we're going to paint it later, so and colour it later, so I want the sky to have a nice space for its visual effect. Then we're going to create another hill there in the distance. Now for the rest of it, it's totally up to you. You can add as much detail you want to, but that's the basic drawing of perspective and using 2-point perspective. So for you, you could add to this a stained glass window, so we could put in, I don't know, I'm going to put a crucifix here across, and I think I'll have sort of shards of light coming off it. That'd be quite nice to paint later on, maybe some sort of oranges in the background. For the clock face, well, I could turn it to a normal clock, or again I could make it a stained glass, but I think I'll keep it as a sort of clock. And for the door here, I think I'll make the top of this into a sort of stained glass, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a rim there, and in that I'll make just a simple stained glass effect there. And for the door, well, I'll draw a line down roughly in the centre, maybe put some sort of handles on the door. Okay, get in line, yeah, that's not too bad. And for the garden, I'm gonna put, for the garden of the churchyard, I think I'll put a tree in there. I'll create a kind of fir tree or a Christmas tree effect. So maybe might decorate that for Christmas tea. Into the graveyard. Nothing too complicated, just a simple sort of triangle with checky edges. If you want to put gravestones in, I'm going to put one in here. Create a line in line with that there. Draw a basic gravestone shape, but to make it 3D, that line up, curve it back over like that. You get the effect of the gravestone. You can add all sorts of details to your picture, it's totally up to you, but it's just a matter then of cleaning it up, looking for where you can get rid of some of these lines that you don't need, especially the guidelines here. So ready for when you paint, there'll be less lines to look over and to ignore. Okay, and hopefully with this cleaning up your picture like this, you'll be able to see the 3D effect in a greater way. Okay, that's for stage one. I think we'll add people to that at a later stage. Well, I enjoyed doing that, so over to you. Good luck.